This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Afternoon, Bob. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Doing good. So, yeah, it's starting to feel like fall. I know we're not quite there yet, but it's starting to feel like it, man. And I'm excited about night games coming up. A couple of night games in a row, which I know you had to laugh about it because Coach Pittman referred to the idea that the players get Sunday off. The coaches don't. So the players love night games. The coaches not so much.
Well, I think the fans like them, a lot, especially a big game like this. I'm thinking as a writer with headlines, I love day games too, but I get why the players like them. I get why the fans like them, and TV obviously likes them. I mean, the bigger games, sometimes, they're in that 2:30 time slot with CBS, but, more often than not, the marquee games are at night.
Bob, it was good running into you Friday at the Arkansas Hall of Honor deal. It's always good to see folks. What do you expect? What do you want to see out of this Arkansas Razorback football team this week?
Yeah, I guess I just like to see them, keep taking steps forward. I think it's understandable they haven't played their best in these first two games. Listen to what Kalani Sitake, the BYU coach, and their players are talking about. They've kind of had similar starts. They're both 2-0 at home and have played teams they're expected to beat, and I think BYU's got a lot of motivation to come out here. Play an SEC team. It's their first year in the Big 12. They want to have a good showing. They want to pay back Arkansas, I think, so to speak, for getting beat, pretty decisively, 52-35, and it could have been worse. And I think Arkansas needs to understand. I think they do that BYU. This is a really big game to BYU, and it should be a big game for Arkansas. So I'd like to see them, run the ball better, especially, and do a better job of converting on third downs and fourth downs if it comes down to that, and keep making progress on defense, because the defense has been pretty good until the special teams. So I just think they need to. I think BYU is going to come in here really motivated and play really well, and Arkansas needs to match that.
Well, I think they know that, and it sounds like from the press conferences from the players and from Sam Pittman this week that they've turned the intensity up. They've kind of, there might be a little more focus on the opponent. There's more hitting going on. I mean, it's the expectation of this. Obviously, we know this is the toughest game of the season, but there's also an anticipation that you have to be maybe a little bit more up for
flat
this game
early on
than you were the first two.
Yeah, and that's Arkansas, let's face it, they came out flat last week. I mean, they struggled. They were only leading 14-6, and then they didn't get the fourth down. And credit the defense, because what happens if Kent State takes that short field, 32 yards, goes down, scores, and goes for two and ties it? I mean, then the whole stadium's freaking out probably. But and I still think Arkansas would have won, but. Yeah, to me, if I'm Arkansas, I'm approaching this like an SEC game, just like going out there to BYU was a tough road trip. I also think this, I mean, there may be, I don't think the players and coaches think this way, but the fans and the media should. Just because Arkansas went out to BYU last year and won doesn't automatically mean they're going to win at home. I mean, logic tells you if you beat a team on the road, you should beat them at home, but these are two different teams with a lot of different players. There's some of the same players, obviously, like, KJ Jefferson, but BYU's got a new quarterback. They've got a new defensive coordinator. Arkansas's got two new coordinators. So, I think if I'm Arkansas, I'm approaching this like an SEC game.
I think that is the way that they're looking at this game. Tell me about Keaton Slovis. He's stepped in at quarterback. He's a transfer. Jaron Hall left BYU after the year, went into the NFL draft. And Slovis, I mean, he was one of the more highly recruited quarterbacks coming out of high school, but he's bounced around a little bit.
Yeah, he was that guy, just like Jackson Dart, right, who Arkansas is going to see later this year against Ole Miss, was a USC guy. And Daniels, who I think is now at Rice, JT Daniels, Arkansas missed him at Georgia because he was hurt, and that's when Stetson Bennett kind of took over a couple of years ago. But yeah, he was he was hot shot quarterback at USC, just like they all are, right? I mean, does USC sign anybody at quarterback? It's not like a 4 or 5 star. And he went in there, and Daniels won the job and got hurt in the first game. And Slovis took over, and he was the quarterback the whole year, threw for over 3,500 yards, like 30 TDs. And, the next year as a sophomore USC quarterback, he was kind of a media darling. He was a guy that was getting mentioned for Heisman Trophy consideration. And he did okay, but really his next 2 years, they were not as good as that first one was. And Dart came in there, was taking some snaps, and the big thing was, they had their coaching change. They fired Clay Helton, and then Lincoln Riley took the job. And when Slovis was going to follow Lincoln Riley to USC, but I think you could read that writing was on the wall. So Slovis got in the portal, transferred to Pitt, pretty good landing spot. I think Pitt was just coming off their ACC championship, and they played Michigan State. I think it was in the Peach Bowl, and lost because their quarterback, who's with the Steelers now, opted out. But anyway, so Slovis went there. Pitt had a need, and he had a solid year. Pitt went 8-4, not a bad year, but he had career lows, and I think he only threw 10 touchdowns and 2,000-something yards. So he got in the portal again to go out to Utah, which I think he probably feels is more quarterback-friendly offense. And he's done well there so far, obviously against so-so competition, but he's run for 3 touchdowns, which he had never run for a touchdown in his previous career. So, he's doing a little bit more of that, not a lot, and he's throwing the ball pretty well. So yeah, he's an interesting guy because he's on his third school now, but I think he's got 72 career touchdown passes, and he's thrown for close to 11,000 yards. So he's got big time stats.
Bob, last year we were able to run the ball a little bit. I think Rocket averaged over 10 yards a carry. Green and Dominion, they had decent games as well. How do you see that going this week, A.J. Green or Dominion? Which one of those running backs have you liked so far this year, and do you think that we're going to be able to run the ball like we did last year when we went up to Provo?
Well, yeah, it's a good point you bring up because I think Rocket went off to like 175. And, he was really the star of the game. And KJ, everybody remembers that play where, half the defense bounced off him and he hit, I think it was Trey Knox for about a 35-yard gain on the sideline. But, we know Rocket's not going to play because of the knee. But I think A.J. Green, Dominion's a good runner. We still haven't really seen Dominic Johnson get on track. And I think, when a guy's had back-to-back knee surgeries, that's a tough deal, so we'll see what goes on there. But, yeah, right now I think A.J. Green's your go-to guy. He had a good game last week. Dominion had a big bowl game, and we know he can play, but I think he's got to break loose a little bit. And then KJ, I mean, when Arkansas really took control of that game last week in the second half, when you're in KJ. And so I think Arkansas can run the ball on it, but I think KJ is going to have to be a big part of that running game. And the line's got to do. Sam Pittman talks a lot about fits, right? And getting in, filling your gaps and filling your lanes, and that's what the defense does, opening up the gaps in the lanes. And so I think if the line will step up and block better, and the running backs will do a better job of reading those holes and maybe breaking some tackles, then I think they can run pretty well.
Matt, Bob is a Packers fan. one of 2 guys I know pretty well that's a Packers fan. How did you feel watching Aaron Rodgers go down with that injury on Monday? Because I mean, even the most jaded NFL fan that might not even like Aaron Rodgers.
Hey, he
still
brought you a Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I wish Aaron Rodgers nothing but the best. As a matter of fact, I texted a friend who's the Jets, and before the game said, "Hey, good luck to our Aaron and your Jets." Aaron Rodgers, he's a great Packer. He's obviously a first-ballot Hall of Famer. He's one of the best quarterbacks ever. We won a Super Bowl with him. We should have gone to a couple, 3 more, not through his fault, but through some other things that happened. A really bad onside kick in Seattle that Seattle recovered comes to mind. But no, I mean, I was not even against the trade because I felt like last year, the Packers, Aaron was healthy and had a good year, and the Packers didn't make the playoffs, got swept by the Lions. Couldn't win at Lambeau at the end when we had to win. And so my feeling was, we drafted Jordan Love in the first round. He's been here 3 years, just like Aaron Rodgers was behind Brett Favre. It's time to let, see what Jordan Love can do. And right now, I hate to say this, but I don't believe the Packers have the wherewithal to get to the Super Bowl. Although if we could play the Bears 17 times, I'd really like our chances. but I think Aaron, I think the Jets have a lot of good pieces, and they were missing a quarterback. And so I wish, my dream would be the Jets and the Packers in the Super Bowl. And I wish Aaron Rodgers nothing but the best, felt horrible when he got hurt. And I read somewhere where Wisconsin Bar, was doing some kind of promotion. If the Jets lost, all the drinks were free. And so I just thought, that's just crap. Like Matt was just saying, Aaron Rodgers was a great Packer. I think it was probably a good move for both franchises for him to move on and get a change of scenery for the end of his career. And the Packers, I think, got some good players back. Plus, his fans, even if they're crass and jerks, Aaron Rodgers, I think, need to play 70% of Jets snaps for one of the return picks to be a first-rounder. So that means the Packers won't get a first-round pick. So, how stupid do you have to be to root against Aaron Rodgers? You got to be pretty stupid and pretty horrible fan, I would say.
Yeah, I do want to ask you about it. So LSU, Alabama, and Texas A&M, who were picked first, second, and third to win the SEC West, have all taken out-of-conference losses. Do you still think the SEC West is going to be LSU's, Alabama's, and then maybe even A&M's at third?
Well, that was a surprise, at least to me and probably a lot of other folks, that Texas went in there and handled Alabama like they did. But, I still think Alabama and LSU, if you look at the talent level, I still think you have to pick them at the top of the division. A&M, I was one of those guys that thought, they had a lot of talent, and getting Bobby Petrino in there will really help them out. And, going to Miami, it's not a horrible loss, but they were up, 17-7 and got beat 48-33, so pretty big collapse. So I'm not as high on the Aggies as I would be, but I do think that the division is more wide open than it's probably been in a long time, because I think Alabama and LSU are really good, but I don't know if they're dominant. And, this is a tough year for Arkansas to have to go on the road to those two places. If those two teams are coming to Fayetteville, I think I'd like Arkansas's chances a lot better. Doesn't mean they can't go on the road and win at one of those places or both, but it's a lot harder. But I still think Alabama and LSU are the class of the division, but I think the gap is closed based on what we've seen early in the season so far.
And on Friday, I got to see Sean Andrews. I got to see Bob Holt, and Phil and I were just talking. Another teammate of mine, another Hall of Famer, Jason Peters. He just signed he's 41, I believe, just signed a one-year deal with the Seahawks. What are your thoughts on Jason Peters?
Bob, I think it's is it legitimate that has Jason Peters had the best NFL career of any Razorback?
Of undrafted play of Razorbacks, yeah.
Well, for sure, yeah. He's right up there, and certainly the longest. I don't think anybody. Joe Ferguson played for 17 years. I guess we'll have to add up Jason's, but Jason's going to be a Hall of Famer. He's not only had longevity; he's been a great tackle, and it really
two-time All-Pro.
Yeah, that teams keep wanting to bringing him in. Even at his advanced age, and of course, Jason was a tight end, right? I always remember. Did you hit him? Was it a touchdown or two-pointer or something?
Yeah, he was a tight end, so him and Sean would be on that same side. But you look at that Ole Miss 7 overtime game, you look at that Kentucky 7 overtime game, he made big play after big play, yeah.
Yeah, so athletic, and that really speaks to how nimble he is for a big man. That he played tight end, had the footwork, and that right side of him and Sean Andrews. Has anybody in college ever had a better right side than Sean Andrews and Jason Peters? And, to go undrafted, you just got to wonder what the scouts were thinking. But, good for Jason, and that he still is hanging in there and playing. Maybe he'll just keep going up. Maybe he'll be the Tom Brady of offensive tackles.
BetOnline is your number one source for all your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts.